do. If you furlough them, you're going to have to hunt them back up unless you have security to stay with them.
I'm not saying for mass murder or something like that.
I understand.
What
what they do with those folks, though?
I have no idea.
Did they have somebody to sit with them, you know? I've been several different occasions sat with people at the hospital and then bring them back to jail. So, you know, I didn't know what their policy was, but that was a policy here. So
I think what Bob is saying here is once they get out of the county, they're outside our control. And what we're having to face right now, if we send someone to Overland County or whichever county it may be, and that person gets a headache, and they're going to take him to the emergency room with a headache, and they're going to spend the $500 or $600 or whatever that emergency room is going to charge us. We've got to pay it, and whatever medications they put him on. I don't care if it's a prescription drug that would normally be controlled outside. If they put him on it, we're going to have to buy it, and then we're going to have to make provisions to give it to them and make sure that no one else in the jail gets it. It's a ridiculous situation, but it's one that that's beyond their control right now because someone else is making that decision, but we're having to pay the bills for it.
Let me ask a question. I see here that it's K off of Hyman.
Yes.
I pronounce the name right. Has negotiated the discounts locally here.
Right.
Has anyone done this? So you got prisoners in Overton County. You got prisoners.
They have
has
tried.
She called and tried?
Yes, and they've got reductions on
okay,
some
now
of
Dr. Clapp has a company that I think it's in Knoxville where it's based, but all they do is negotiate price reductions.
Yeah.
Patients.
Well, see, we had a contract with Keratin, and then they quit and sold the contract to Humana, but that wasn't doing us any good. That's how we got the $100,000. So we thought, heck, we can negotiate as well. All they're doing is negotiate. We can do two things with our jail. We can have some medical person look at them at the jail for $35. Okay, and that stops a lot of our problems right there. But and then the other rates you've been able to negotiate, that's great. But that's not where our big cost is coming. Our big bills are coming from the other counties that are housing. They're housing twice as many of our prisoners as we are. And they don't care what we spend.
But some of the costs, Bob, is like if they take them to the Overland County Hospital or Livingston Hospital, do they negotiate the same kind of pricing?
When she gets the bills, then she calls from here. They don't negotiate. I don't know. They may. I don't know.
That's what I was wondering. You know, if they're in White County, have they negotiated with that hospital and Overland County and say,
I can't answer that.
That would be a substantial savings if they did, if they get 50% off on inpatient.
I do know that we have tried to reduce the bills from out-of-county hospitals, usually with success, okay, just with a phone call.
When they take them to the emergency room, they probably run every test they can.
You know, we had a real problem with that a few years ago. But now, I really don't think, if you want, I can see how many of those were paid locally and how many are, before the next meeting, how many were paid to out-of-county, for out-of-county inmates. But regardless, we've got bills for $20,000 already for January.
Well, we're looking at $100,000 from September.
July 1st.
July 1st. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion. We accept the budget.
I'll say.
Well, all I'm asking is if they can just check with them and see if there's a way that it can cut our costs down. I'm not saying
they would be glad to.
Anything better than $200,000 or $300,000.
Okay. The other question that I had and the interesting thing about it was by adding this to the budget, we want to make sure that this is not a reoccurring thing that we have to add next year also. But the way I understand it, since it's an amendment and not part of the original budget, that wouldn't have to be added into the budget. I believe the sheriff and is it school board or the school director of schools that we can't reduce the budget from one year to the next?
Right. We can't budget them less without their consent.
Right.
This year than we did last year in the budget. And that's the same thing. Remember, we ran into that with the maintenance of efforts on the schools. This year, the sales tax didn't bring in what we projected it to. That was a budgeted number, so we were under no obligation to transfer those funds because we budgeted as much as we did last year. Just because it didn't bring it in is out of our control. So I don't really think we have a problem there. If we would have, it would have already surfaced because we have under budgeted the jail by 75,000 this year, not the jail, the sheriff's department. It's 75,000 less this year than it was last year. Last year was 998,000, this year's 925.
I think that maybe some of the other commissioners had the same concern that I did about this, to make sure that we don't, get into this issue, and then every time this comes up, that kind of feeds the pile, so to speak. So that was just a question that I had about
Motion,
it.
Mr. Chairman.
You made the motion to
Accept the
have a
budget.
motion, now have a second.
Good over some data.
Have a second. Roll call vote.
Leonard. Ray.
Pass.
Billy.
All right.
Bob.
Four.
Floyd.